in as much as churches, ministries, whatever, are seeking to do renewal, my assumption is that that comes out of a recognition that in terms of trying as a group to follow God, that's not an easy thing because of the way culture and theology and then the way we organize and understand ourselves are always in flux based on where we are. We live in a world that's shifting. We're always interpreting what God is up to in our midst through people and structures and things like that. And so ministry to me is about constant attention and engagement with what the Spirit of God is doing in a community that is then rooted in a theology, in a place, and in a way of understanding itself that responds to the place and the theology. That may sound more complex than I mean it to sound, but it just means that we're constantly having to engage. And so renewal to me is a recognition that something fundamental has shifted and we're not in tune with it. And so we need to recalibrate ourselves to get back into step with where we've gone off track or where we've missed the movement or the invitation to follow God. And that's not because something has gone wrong, that's because this is hard. Keeping pace with the Spirit, being attentive to ourselves, being attentive to the culture, reading God's Word, understanding it, applying it in fresh ways. I mean, this is an all-in proposition, and it's very challenging work and the best kind of work to be doing. It's where life happens. And so now, where does it relate to how the community functions in that? And then the place of doubt in the midst of that. Again, that's big enough to not know exactly how to respond. But I think what I would want to say is that there's a temptation to err on one of two sides. One would be to be completely leader-centric, such that the leader's constantly driving the renewal or change or response posture of the community. The other would be to make the community primary, where the community's driving everything and the leader's constantly responding to the congregation. I think finding the mix between leadership and community is a dance that requires an enormous amount of discernment. And I think it's easy to err on one side or the other, but the reality is that blessed are the feet of him or her who brings good news, that oftentimes the word we need comes from the outside, by a messenger, by an apostle, by a leader. I don't find that committees or communities are often creatively generative. They're great at responding. They're great at living, but it often takes a leader from the outside to observe the patterns of what's happening and to be able to, from a distance, see and observe and make comments and lead. And so I think both leader and community are essential in terms of being attentive to what the Spirit of God is doing in a community. Doubt, again, I'm not sure how that gets framed in that, except to say it can be an invitation to humility, to recognize that we don't know, that we live by faith, that when we make prescriptions or contentions about what God's doing, that we always do so provisionally, and that's a gift, that's not a problem. And I think it requires an interdependency between a leader and the community and the leader, and then the two of them together with the larger community of which they're a part. So doubt not as a vice, but as a virtue that has the potential to lead to humility and a way of listening for God's voice from all those places, from the leader, from the church, from the community of which it's a part. Yeah.